Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jenna. I am doing this playlist as a book review playlist for books that I have on my bookshelf already or books that people suggest for me to review. In my last video, I reviewed The Maze Runner, and I would recommend watching that video before you watch this one, because in this video I'm going to be reviewing the Scorch Trials, which is the second book of the Maze Runner series. So if you haven't watched the first video, I would recommend doing that. I will start with just a quick overview for people that don't want to have any spoilers but want to kind of get a general sense of what the book is like, and then after that I'll do a spoiler warning and then I'll go into more detail of the book. Let's get started. The Scorch Trial starts off after they've escaped from the maze and they get to this rescuer place. They don't really know much about what's going on or anything in the end of the Maze Runner. They just show up at this building after being saved by these soldiers that they think are saving them. Then they get to this dormitory, they go to sleep, and when they wake up, that's how this book begins. So they wake up in this dorm and no idea really what's going on, and then Thomas, the main character, he's trying to talk to Teresa and then she kind of disappears. So he starts kind of getting anxious that things aren't going right, and then before they know it, they have this whole new set of trials that they have to go through, which involves going out into the desert essentially, where there's all these crazy people trying to attack them. So they have to get through that and get to like the safe haven that is past the open expanse of desert in front of them. And they have like different obstacles along the way that they have to get through. It's pretty fast paced, which is good. I really liked it, and I didn't remember reading much of it because I started reading it and I thought to myself, like, I haven't read this in a long time, so maybe I only read it once. I thought I'd read it twice before, but I think this is only the second time that I've read it that I remember, because there's a lot of plot twists that still got me this time that I forgot about before. So yeah, definitely a really awesome book. I would give it a rating on a scale of like 0, which I don't know what that is yet, to Harry Potter being a 10. I would give this like 8.5 because it was really good, fast paced. I would caution that it is like a little bit freaky at the start, especially with just like some of the things you have to get through. So like I was reading it at night and I was like kind of freaked out, so I would recommend maybe getting through like the first half of the book in the daytime. But yeah, I would recommend reading it. The characters are all really good. Now I'm gonna get more into detail, so if you wanna come back after you've read it and finish the rest of this video, feel free to, or you can stick around if you want to learn the whole detailed story and don't care about spoilers, or if you don't ever plan on reading it and don't care. So if everybody remembers from the first book that Thomas and Teresa can talk in their heads, and that's how the Scorch Trials begins. Teresa is talking to Thomas telepathically and they chat for a little while, then he goes back to sleep and everything's all good, and then he wakes up again because he hears like noises and shouting and everything, and he's like, what the heck's going on? So he tries to talk to Teresa, but then she just is gone. Like he can't even sense her presence like he could before, so he just feels like something's definitely wrong even before he's fully awake. So then he wakes up and there's like cranks, which are these crazy people, smashing in the windows and freaking out and trying to get in. So then they're like, oh my god, like something's weird, like the people that saved us should have prevented this from happening, like what's going on? Then they realize they're locked in their dorm room and Teresa's across the hallway apparently in a different dorm room. So then they smash the door up and get out, and it's all pitch black out there. They're walking around, they run into these things hanging from the ceiling, and it's like, then they turn the lights on and they realize it's all their dead bodies hanging from the ceiling. So then after they find all these dead bodies, they get to Teresa's room. They see a note on the door that says Teresa the Betrayer as her like name tag kind of for her room. They break in there and Thomas is like, okay, she's safe in here. But then this boy walks out of the bathroom and his name is Eris, and Teresa's not in there at all. So they talk with Eris and realize that he is from Group B of the Maze Trials, and his story is the exact same basically as the Maze Runner, except that he is the only boy in a group full of girls, and he is the Teresa of that group. And the girl that he is kind of paired up with, like Thomas and Teresa are paired up with, his girl is named Rachel, but then she gets killed when they escape the maze, just like how Thomas was supposed to get killed, but Chuck saved him. So they're kind of like switched roles. And Thomas is like, well, where's Teresa? And Eris is like, I don't know anything about her. Like, I've never heard of her in my life. So then they chat for a while, and then when they go back out, they see that the dorm room is all the windows are bricked up and everything. And so they're like, well, we can't leave because there's crazy people outside, and also the doors are chained shut and the windows are bricked up. So basically they just wait there for like 3 days. On the 3rd day, they walk out of their dorm room to see this guy sitting at a desk with a whole pile of food there for them and everything. He has this like force field in front of him, so they can't like bug him or get to him. So then this guy, he is sitting there, and he's kind of like a creepy, gross looking guy. He tells them all about this disease that's ravaged the whole world after the sun flares happened. So the sun flares happened, which scorched the whole earth and destroyed the climate and killed off tons of people. And at the same time, this flare disease was like released from some lab somewhere, which added to the chaos. So now there's this flare that has infected like probably 80% of the population or something. It seems like it's a lot in the book, they don't actually say. So their next trial is that they have to make it through the Scorch, which is this barren landscape of desert basically, and through some mountains to get to this safe haven, and they have 2 weeks to do it or they die. And if they make it to the safe haven, then they will get the cure for the flare because they're already all infected. That's what he tells them. So the next morning they go through this teleporter. So once they go through the teleporter, they get to this long dark hallway. They can't see anything. They try to get themselves organized and they start walking down the hallway because what else are they gonna do? And then all of a sudden this guy ahead of Thomas starts like freaking out and screaming, and he runs up to him and he's like, well, I can't feel anything wrong with you. There's no injuries or blood or anything. And then he gets to his head and he just feels this like solid mass of metal over where his head should be. And then all of a sudden it just like falls off and rolls away. And they're like, oh my God, what is going on? Like, what just happened to this guy? And so they can't even see anything. They can't even tell what it is, but they just know that his head just got like cut off randomly. So then they're like, all right, we're just gonna like run full tilt down this hallway blindly and hope for the best, basically. So they're running, and then another kid, the same thing happens to him. His head gets like cut off by this metal helmet thing. And then finally they get to some stairs, and there's a door at the top that like leads outside, but it's way too hot and bright out there, so they have to like, they're like deciding like, are we gonna go outside now? Like, how do we survive outside in this heat? Like, we can't just go out there, we're gonna get singed alive by the sun. So they're standing there, and all of a sudden this one kid like looks up and sees this like a drip of metal forming on the ceiling, like a raindrop, and then it drips off, latches onto like the top of his head, and like starts like moving down his face to like cut off his head eventually. So then Thomas like goes and like grabs this ball of metal and like rips it off and saves him, because they can actually see from the light coming through the doorway. So he's actually able to save him, but then this kid is like all like burned and messed up. But eventually they do decide, okay, we're gonna use our seats that they'd used to pack some food in. They put them over their heads and got outside, and like it's just blindingly bright out there, and probably like plus 50 or something. I can see like the kind of outline of like some kind of city with some mountains behind it. So we're like, all right, I guess we have to get to the city, go through the city, climb over the mountains, and then we'll be safe. So then the one night, I think it takes them a couple days to get to the town, but the one night that they are out there, they see this random shack, and then Teresa comes out, and Thomas is like, oh my God, she's like safe. So he runs over to her and he's like, okay, like what's going on? Tell me what's going on. And she can't really tell him anything. She just kind of says like, you have to run away from me. This isn't normal. So he's like, all right, like something's definitely off. She kind of seemed like she was getting like mind controlled a little bit. So they just all run away and keep going towards the town. Just when they're like, I don't know, an hour away from the town or so, this huge storm like starts brewing, and then it's like this huge lightning storm, and like it's like zapping people. So it kills like, I think like 6 or 7 people, just because the lightning is like this massive lightning that just like shoots down from the clouds that are really low, and because of the flare situation and the sun flares, the climate's all messed up, so that's why the lightning storm is so extreme. They make it to the city, they climb inside this random building and like wait out the rest of the storm there and go to sleep. The next morning, they're just chatting about, okay, what do we do next? And then this guy like jumps out of the ceiling that's all cracked and crumbling, and it's like, so basically everybody in this town is a crank and we're all going crazy, and we were all sent here because we had the flare. So we're kind of new here, so we aren't totally crazy, but if you get deeper in the city or if you go underground, the whole place, those people are like too far gone. They're gonna try and eat you, and they're nuts, right? So they're also untrusting at the beginning of each other, but then Thomas talks to him and says like, all right, like, you know, we're gonna go get the cure and we need you to help us get through the city, and you can come with us and we can all get the cure and it'll all be great. So then Jorge is like, all right, sounds fair, let's do it. But he leaves, like, he only brings himself and Brenda from their original group because he doesn't really trust the other guys, and he thinks they're a little more crazy than Jorge and Brenda are. So they like head off into the city, they go grab some food, and then when it's like in a subway cellar kind of area where they have their food, and all of a sudden that whole thing just like explodes and crumbles down. So then Thomas and Brenda, which is a girl from the city, are trapped away from the exit, and everybody else kind of just gets out in time. So they're like, okay, like we can't get out that way. I guess we have to go through these underground tunnels that Brenda kind of knows how to get through, but she's also like freaked out because there's all these crazy people down there and they haven't fully explored the whole place, and she kind of knows how bad it can be down there. So she's like, all right, like we have to go through the city. It's also dangerous to be above ground to try to get through the city. So I guess we're already down here. We might as well just try to get through down here. While they're in the underground, of course, they come across this like group of really crazy cranks, and basically the book just describes them as kind of like a zombie creature with like messed up skin and like going crazy and wants to eat you. So they try to run away, and then they end up having to, they kill the one crank, and then Thomas like feels guilty about it, even though he's like, okay, this guy was like trying to kill us, but he's still like a human being, and I just killed him, and he never killed anybody before, so he just is kind of feels ashamed of that. But then they escape to above ground again, and everything's fine like that. But then the next morning, after they have a sleep in an alleyway, Thomas wakes up and he sees this plaque on one of the walls randomly in the alley, and it says, Thomas is the real leader. And he's like, is this just like new here? And Brenda says, like, no, these are like all over the place. That's kind of why we decided to go with you, because it says that you're the leader. So we kind of followed what the sign said, and you're kind of our only hope to get out of here. Otherwise, we're just gonna stay here and never get the cure and go crazy and die. Thomas is like, all right, well, like, Minho is the leader. I don't want to be the leader even. But they just decide, okay, whatever, let's like go try to find the rest of the group. Just before they decide to leave the alley and go meet up with their friends somewhere in the city, they don't know where they would be, but they're on the edge, so okay, they have to be around here somewhere, like, we'll find them. They get cornered by these 3 people that are like, oh, like, come down to this club here, it's great, like, it'll be a fun time, nothing's going wrong at all. And they can just tell that they're like crazy a little bit, like sane enough to still not want to eat them, but on the verge. So they get like dragged down into this like a nightclub basically for crazy people, and they are like, oh yeah, we knew you were important because we saw you read the sign and we saw that you were freaked out by it, so we know that you're Thomas, and we know that Thomas is important because there's these signs all over, so we're kidnapping you basically, and you're gonna tell us how to get out of here. So they like kidnap them for a bit, drag them, they end up in a basement, and then just before they think that Brenda is going to get killed by these people, so that Thomas will like tell his secrets that he doesn't even have, the Gladers all come and rescue Thomas and Brenda out of this like basement, and they escape from this crazy nightclub thing. They're escaping the basement with the group that saved them. They find one guy that they missed, and he has a gun, and nobody else has guns. Everybody else just has knives or machetes and stuff. But he shoots Thomas and hits him like kind of in the shoulder here. So then he blacks out because it hurts so bad. They take out the guy that shot him, and then they carry Thomas into the desert because they have to keep going north because they have a time limit of 2 weeks to get all the way to the safe haven. So they're like, well, we can't stick around here. There's too many crazy people. And so they take off into the desert carrying Thomas. And Jorge's like, oh, it's fine. Like, I can get the bullet out. It's no problem. So he uses like a hot knife to like dig it out, I guess. And then Thomas wakes up another time and it's like, oh, I know I have like an infection. Like, I feel like crap everywhere. He gets picked up by this like Berg, which is like a big, huge helicopter type of thing, I'm assuming. And it's Wicked who are picking him up, and while he's going in and out of consciousness, he hears them talking, and they're saying like, well, like, this guy with the gun wasn't part of the variables. Like, how did he get a gun into that city? He shouldn't have had one. That wasn't part of our whole trial. So Thomas kind of learns a bit about Wicked that way, and how they're watching them, but they've watched 10 other people die and they haven't done anything. And then he's like, well, why would they save me? Like, why am I more important than everybody else that has died before? And then he hears them just talking about he's a really promising contestant who they want to keep, and also they saved him because the gunshot wasn't supposed to happen. So they don't want that to like affect the rest of the trial because he died from this random event that wasn't actually supposed to happen. So then he gets dropped back with Gladers. He's all fixed up and healed and perfect, and he tells them what happens and just takes some time to recover as they hide out from the sun in this little fort they made. They're like hanging out there waiting for the night to fall so they can actually keep going because it's just too hot to walk in the sun. Teresa like telepathies to Thomas and says, tomorrow something bad will happen to you. Don't answer back. I won't be able to talk to you, but trust me, you won't hear from me until we're back together. So then he doesn't answer because he doesn't want to get her in trouble. But he is like, oh great, like another thing on the list. But also he's kind of hopeful because he's like, all right, well, like we'll be back together, so it'll probably be fine. And then in usual Thomas fashion, he doesn't tell anybody that she warned him about that. He just keeps it to himself because, you know, it's not like they're a group or anything trying to all stay alive. He's very good at like keeping things to himself. Anyways, the next morning they're walking towards the mountains, and all of a sudden Teresa shows up with this group of girls, and they're the group B girls from the second maze. And Teresa's like acting like all angry and like crazy basically, and he's like, what is going on with this girl? But then he kind of remembers her warning, like, all right, like she said just to trust her, I don't know, because she's like, you have to come with us, Thomas. If you don't come with us, we're gonna kill everybody and you're gonna end up coming with us anyways. So then Thomas is like, all right, like I'll go with you, like chill. So they put him in this bag and drag him up to the mountains to this cave they have there. While he's in the bag, Teresa like whispers to him like, remember my warning, trust me. And so then Thomas is like, all right, but like, geez, do you have to keep like hitting on me with this stick that you have? And when they get back to the cave, he is trying to catch on to like what is the whole plan. And then Teresa tells the other girls like, we'll kill him eventually, but like we'll wait because it's like my revenge for what he's done to me. And Thomas is like, well, I didn't do anything to you, so I guess this is just an act. He's also thinking like, she seems like pretty committed to this. Like, can I really trust her? Is she being mind controlled? Like, they can do that. Like, how do I know she's not gonna actually kill me, even though she warned me to trust her? So when she goes scouting, he like he starts talking to these other girls in the group, and he's like, so you guys are like for sure gonna kill me, or like are you just kind of doing what she says? And then they kind of are able to be convinced that he's not a bad guy, he didn't do anything to Teresa, they shouldn't kill him, because he's like, this is probably just a test to see if you'll kill me or if you won't kill me. It's all part of the trials. Like everything we do, they're watching, they know. So then they debate with Teresa and decide to kill him. Teresa's pissed and she like heads off into the ahead of them and leaves the group basically. But then the one leader of the girls group, she is named Harriet, and she's like, yeah, I should probably still watch out for her because she's pissed. First time that Teresa sees Thomas in the desert, Harriet tells Thomas that was just like a false trail to give Thomas hope that things were fine, when really they weren't. Teresa was gonna like still kill him. So then Thomas is like, okay, so like this whole thing has just been an act. She's actually a bad person. Like she actually does want to kill me. So he just totally stops trusting her and is like, all right, that's it. Fine, I'm done with you. He also learns from Harriet that at the end of this path they're going down through the mountains, that there's this like special place where they have to take him to kill him. So he's like, all right, great. But the girls have all decided they don't want to kill him. Teresa's just crazy, so it's fine. So they head off down the path to get to the safe haven. So then they're walking down the path and Thomas sees Teresa and she's like, come with me, like it's all over, like it's fine, like come with me, you can trust me. So he goes to trust her, and then she's like, actually me and Eris are here to kill you. And Eris comes up behind Thomas and it's like, yep, I have this huge knife, we're gonna take you into this cave and we're gonna kill you in there. So they go into this cave and Thomas is like, well, I'm basically screwed, like I can't run away from them. He's got this huge knife right against my back. He realizes that Teresa and Eris are in love, and then he also finds out that they have been talking to each other telepathically the entire time, even while they were in comas in the glade. So then he's like, oh great, well I really can't trust her now. Like she didn't ever tell me this. They pretended not to know anything about each other. They never mentioned their names. So then he tries to like escape because there's this doorway at the back of the cave with a small room inside. And he's like, all right, we're gonna like go in there. We're gonna put you in this room and then you're gonna be dead. Wicked's gonna kill you in there, I guess. So he like tries to fight away and he loses, and they shove him in this room, close the door, and he's laying there like all beat up. And then the room starts to fill with this gas and he's like, oh great, I made it all the way through everything and now I'm gonna get killed by like getting gassed. Fantastic. He goes unconscious and then wakes up and the door swings open and Teresa's there and she's like, oh my god, like I'm so sorry that we had to do that, like please forgive me, like it's all over now. They said that if we didn't do what they said, they'd definitely kill you for real. So the only reason we did this is because Wicked said we had to pretend to kill you. And then Thomas is like, yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. Kind of traumatized by like thinking I was gonna just be killed. And also just the multiple like levels of lies and not knowing what's true or not. And the mind control thing, he's just like, I don't believe you. And he also finds out that her and Eris have actually still been talking telepathically. That part was true at least. So he's like, all right, great, I don't trust you still, but let's just get out of here. So they head down the rest of the mountains and they can see the other groups off in the distance, heading towards this safe haven area that's supposed to be there, but they can't see any buildings or anything in the desert on the other side of the mountains. So they're like, well, I guess we just keep walking out there. Hopefully something happens. On the way down the mountain, Teresa does tell Thomas like her side of the story, like, oh, I woke up and they told me this whole plan to kill you, and then they put me with the group B girls in their own dormitory and told us the same thing that they told the boys, like you have to get through the Scorch in 2 weeks and then you have to kill this Thomas guy. It's just, and the whole goal of that whole situation with Teresa killing Thomas was that Thomas had to feel like he was totally betrayed, totally alone, as part of like the variables that the wicked people are trying to progress through. Thomas is still like, okay, whatever, like I still don't trust you, I don't like you at all. Not cool. Eventually they all meet up in the middle of the desert and they just are like, there's a flag here that says safe haven. And they're like, okay, we've got half an hour left on the timer, let's just wait it out, I guess. All of a sudden the ground around them starts to open up these doorways and there's these pods, just like the pods that were in the Griever tunnel where the Grievers came out of. So they're like, oh great, like another monsters, like these Grievers are gonna come out and attack us. Fantastic. So there's like 30 of these pods, like basically enough for everybody. and these like human-like monsters start crawling out of these pods, and they've like got all these lights like all over them, and they shoot like knives out of their hands and feet and shoulders. So then they have to fight off these monsters, and they figure out that, okay, if you like smash all the lights, that's how you kill them, because otherwise they're just like a machine. So they just smash all the lights for most of the monsters, and then all of a sudden this lightning storm starts like blasting down around them. They're like, we're gonna get smoked by lightning. So after they kind of, you know, got control of some of the monsters, and they're all kind of mostly, for the most part, dead, they climb into these pods to hide, and they can fit like 4 people. So it's like Teresa, Jorge, Thomas, and Brenda all climb into this one pod and just like wait it out, and then like lightning hits their pod. It doesn't hurt them, but like it like breaks open the lid, and then they're like, well, we're basically screwed, like we get hit by lightning again, we're gonna be dead. But then they can hear this sound, and it sounds exactly like one of those bergs, those big airplane helicopter things coming down. So they like lift the lid off, and they're like, oh my god, like we need to like run to that thing, because they had like the door open at the back waiting for them to like go up there. So they all jump out, like everybody else has realized this too, even though they were all hiding kind of in the same pods, just different pods. So everybody realizes like, all right, we gotta all get to this ship. And then of course they have to fight a couple more monsters that just come around the corner of the ship. Yeah, they fight off the last like 6 or so of the monsters. And of course the ship is like, sorry, your time's up. I'm gonna start like slowly lifting off the ground. So they're like, oh my god, we're gonna get left in the freaking desert. So they book it to this airplane and have to like haul themselves up. And then like Brenda almost doesn't make it on the plane. And then they get on there, and they're like, okay, we're like safe from the monsters outside, but now we have to deal with the wicked monsters inside, basically. And the guy that's there, his name is David, he works for Wicked, and he's like, well, who are these like 2 random cranks that you pulled out of the desert with you? You can't bring people here, like this isn't part of the trials, you can't have people come with you, one of them has to go. So Thomas is like, all right, they're gonna do the opposite of what I say, because they're always playing mind games. So if I say Brenda, they'll kill Jorge. So he says, all right, kill Brenda. And then the guy actually grabs Brenda to like throw her off the back of the plane, and Thomas is like, well, that backfired. Like you can't win with their mind games, basically. So then he goes and attacks this David guy and is like, nope, we're done. We're not playing any more of your games. They both stay. And then David's like, all right, fine. Like he makes it like not a big deal. He's like, okay, fine, they can both stay, whatever. And then he also explains like, okay, so like, yeah, you did survive the trials. It's all done. Everything's fine. It's all perfect. You're actually safe now. And everybody's like, all right, like, I guess so. Like, probably not, but I guess we'll just follow this guy to like get some food and stuff. Then Thomas like wakes up, but it's a dream. And he's alone in just this white landscape, kind of like, it's just white. He can't see anything. And then he hears this voice telepathically in his head. And it's like, it's me, Tom, it's Brenda. Things are about to get bad for you. And then he like wakes up because he like screams himself awake because he's probably just like sick of all the bad things happening. And so he's like, okay, like, was that dream legit or was it fake? And also, why am I now in this other room that is just like a white padded cell with like a desk with a force field in front of it again? And he's like, well, okay, that's great. Nothing else to do in here, I guess. So he just like goes back to sleep because he's like, I'm not gonna get worried about it because it's the trials again. It's another thing that's just gonna happen that I can't control, whatever. Like, I'm not playing their games anymore. I'm just gonna go back to sleep. And he also can't like talk telepathically to anybody. Like even he tries Brenda because he's like, well, I don't know if that dream is real or not, but I'll try. And no, he can't talk to anybody. And then like a while later he wakes up and Teresa's in his head and she's like, where are you? Like, what's going on? Everybody else is in this dorm room and they took you away as soon as the berg landed, and said like, oh, he's too crazy. He's got the flare. He's done for. Like, we can't have him be around you guys. So they took him away from the rest of the group, and the rest of them are just in this dorm room hanging out. And she's like, so yeah, like, where are you? Like, what's going on? It's been a whole week since you have been here. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, it's only been like 2 days or whatever. And so he starts to just be like, you know what, Teresa, I'm done with you and your lies and not being able to trust you and your mind games that you're playing all the time. So then he's like, you know what, you can just like go away, don't talk to me. stop talking to me right now. And then like right before she like cuts herself off from him telepathically, she's like, Wicked is good. And then that's the end of the book. So it ends with like Thomas just in this room by himself. He's separated from his group of friends. It's potentially another mystery waiting to unfold in the third book. And then the epilogue is just a memo from a Wicked meeting, I'm guessing. It says, we got the patterns we need, even if things didn't go as planned, so that's good. They feel confident that when the Gladers get their memory restored, they'll be willing to help them. So you're like, okay, like in the next book, they're gonna restore the memories, it's gonna be all good. They'll know what's actually going on for once. And then as soon as we remove the mind wipe and they get their memories back, then Wicked's gonna tell them who actually is immune to the flare and who isn't, and then that's how it ends fully for the epilogue. So it's like another it's a cliffhanger regardless of if you read the epilogue or not. So yeah, it keeps you like interested for the end of the book. And some other good things that I liked was first off, that the cranks weren't just like the regular zombies, like, oh, we want to eat your brains and stuff. Like they could actually talk, or not just like totally mindless, crazy, want to eat you. They have a little bit of like, can still talk to you, so it makes it kind of creepier. I also liked how they actually like know that they're cranks. Like, I don't know if the ones that are totally 100% gone know they're cranks, but like the ones that are like 50% gone know they're cranks still. They're like, yeah, I'm crazy, this sucks, and they're freaking out about it. They can't do anything, so that's like kind of cool that they actually are aware. I also liked that it was like pretty creepy. Like, I warned everybody you should read it in the daytime for the first bit of it, but yeah, it's like pretty scary. It's nice because it's not in like a too like horror book kind of way. Like, it's not really gory or anything. It just is like, yeah, this happens, it's messed up, you know. It's not like very descriptive of how gross it is and stuff. Like, that'd be disgusting. So yeah, I like that it like tells like the scary events without being gross. One part that like is like really creepy but kind of cool is when they're walking down the hallway in the dark. I also read this at night, so like that's probably why it was extra creepy. But like there's like this like ominous whispering voice that's just like, go back now, you won't be sliced. And it's like, what does that even mean? And then you find out later that it means your head won't get cut off by a metal ball falling onto you from the ceiling. I really like Jorge as a character because he's like, he seems like a good guy and is like willing to help them, but he's also like, you know, seems just like he could snap at any second and just be like, that's it, I hate you, I'm killing you all because I'm the leader of this city and I'm on the verge of like totally losing it because he's a crank. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, he's like a good character that's like keeps you on the edge with like, what's he gonna do? Can you trust him or not? Another thing I also liked is that in the book they work in the information from the past well. Like, it's not just like some person comes along and tells them everything. Like, Thomas has these dream memories when he gets picked up by Wicked because of the bullet wound. That's like worked well into the story to give like the reader more information about Wicked and their whole plan. I also liked that the emotions in this book, I remember like the maze runner when I talked about like they don't really have as good emotions in there. Thomas thinks about Teresa all the time when he's not with her and he can't talk to her in his head. He actually misses her, not just like he missed her so much. It like also shows the character missing her. I also liked how the girls in Group B didn't just blindly accept Teresa into their group as their main leader and do everything she says, because that's totally not realistic. Like, those girls have been like in their little clique for like 2 years, so all of a sudden Teresa comes along, this new girl, they're not just gonna be like, oh, she's our leader, it's fine. Things that I didn't like so much were that the chapters are like super short, like especially the first couple ones, they're like a page and a half or so, and I'm like, I feel like there's like other ways you could like split up the book besides just having like 60 chapters, because some chapters are like a page. But like, I don't know, that's just like more of a technical thing. I don't like that Brenda is like instantly all over Thomas. Like, I understand that she wants to be with him because she thinks he's the leader because of the plaques on the wall saying he's the new leader, but it's just like is annoying that she's like all of a sudden just like, oh, we're alone in this underground tunnel and it's dark, let's like make out or whatever. And like he's like, well, no. And she's like, oh, it's just because like from where I'm from, I'm just a little more forward. And it's like, but also like you're in this tunnel, everybody's freaked out. Like it's just annoying that like it has to be Thomas that she's obsessed with. It couldn't be like any of the other like 10 other guys that are there. I also didn't like that like the only 2 girls in the entire book happen to be obsessed with Thomas. Like, really. Another thing that I didn't like was that they don't really have a lot of dialogue in the book between like anybody besides Thomas, Teresa, Brenda, and maybe when they have the meeting with Jorge, but like other than that, like the characters don't really talk to each other. And they don't really have like a lot of the other characters in the book hardly at all. You know, like they're like, oh, Newt was running beside Thomas or whatever, but like they don't actually do anything in the book. I wish they would have had like more of the older characters from the Maze Runner be a little bit more present in the book. Other good things that I liked was that you kind of forget about Eris in the beginning. He's just kind of there. He's like, oh yeah, like a background character, doesn't really say much. And then when he suddenly shows up with Teresa with the knife and everything to like betray Thomas, you're like, oh yeah, I forgot this guy existed, because he doesn't get talked about for like 3/4 of the book until then. And you're like, oh my god, I forgot this guy was potentially a bad guy. I also liked after the whole betraying Thomas, trying to kill him thing, Thomas is like, nope, I don't trust you, kind of dead to me, I'm traumatized. Because like that's pretty realistic, because you're not just gonna be like, oh yeah, no, it was all part of the trials, oh that's fine, like I forgive you, I love you, whatever. He's like, I'm kind of done, I can't deal with all this craziness. So yeah, that's kind of my overview more in detail of the book and some things that I liked about it. I still really like Thomas as a character. Like you kind of just feel like he makes sense and is logical and like a real person with how he does stuff for the most part, so that's nice. It's not like he's like some really smart guy that knows how to do everything. He's just kind of like floundering around, doesn't know what's going on, kind of screws up, you know, like he should have probably told the group that Teresa was talking to him in his head again, and he's like, oh no, I'll keep it a secret, it's fine, which is stupid, but he still does it because he's Thomas. Definitely a lot more interesting than I remember it being. Like I didn't remember like hardly anything that happened in this book for whatever reason. I was like, oh yeah, I know what happens in this book. I didn't. So yeah, it's definitely good that I reread it, because I had no idea what was going on the whole time. The next book that I will be reading will be The Death Cure. That one is, of course, by James Dashner. It's the 3rd book, and on the back it says, "The time for lies is over," which I feel like is very fitting, because like Wicked's lying to them, Teresa's all lying, Eris is lying, nobody knows what's going on. So this book will be good to like actually finally get some answers to all these questions that just are there. If you liked this review and you want to stay in touch for the next one, The Death Cure, you can subscribe to my channel to keep in touch with the playlist. And also, if you like this video and my thoughts in the review, hit the like button and leave a comment with a book you'd like me to review, or share your thoughts on the Scorch trials yourself. I'd love to hear what you guys thought about it. And yeah, I will see you in the future with my next book review for The Death Cure. Bye.